Imagine you're flying into your favorite non-towered airport. You make your radio call. Greenville traffic, Pirate Parachute 841 Papa Whiskey entering left downwind, runway 18 Greenville. Only this time, another aircraft isn't listening because there's a pilot on board. It's listening because it's a computer. Researchers at Georgia Tech have developed a system that teaches autonomous aircraft to understand Common Traffic Advisory Frequency, or CTAF radio calls at uncontrolled airports. From an engineering standpoint, that's fascinating, but I think it raises some much bigger questions that aren't getting enough attention. Not whether the technology works, but what happens if it does? Researchers at Georgia Tech have developed software that combines computer vision with artificial intelligence capable of interpreting CTAF radio calls made by pilots at non-towered airports. Instead of relying on cameras, the autonomous aircraft also listens to pilots announcing things like entering left downwind, turning base, clear of the runway. The AI combines what it hears with what it sees and predicts where the aircraft are likely to be. Honestly, that's pretty clever. The researchers even point out that humans do exactly the same thing. We don't just look outside, we build a mental picture using what we hear on the radio. So from a technical perspective, this is an impressive project. The researchers aren't being secretive. They're very open about what they're trying to accomplish. They want autonomous aircraft to operate at non-towered airports. That includes future cargo aircraft and other autonomous aviation systems. It makes one wonder where the money for this research comes from. That's something that Georgia Tech isn't that transparent about. In other words, this isn't research for research's sake, and that's where I think the real discussion begins. The interesting thing isn't whether AI can understand radio calls. Eventually, it probably will. The real question is, should autonomous aircraft become routine users of our non-towered airports? Those are two completely different discussions. For years, much of the conversation about drones has centered around separation. The idea was to keep drones largely apart from traditional aviation through concepts like lower altitude operations, geofencing, or dedicated traffic management systems. The philosophy was fairly clear, and both sides of the UAV debate seemed to agree. Keep the system separate whenever possible. This research represents a different philosophy. Instead of separating autonomous aircraft from manned aviation, it's teaching autonomous aircraft to integrate directly into the existing airport environment. That's a significant shift. People sometimes think of uncontrolled airports as airports that don't have towers, but they're much more than that. They're aviation infrastructure, runways, taxiways, lighting, weather reporting, fuel, maintenance facilities, GPS approaches, emergency access, decades of pilot investment. If you're trying to build a nationwide autonomous cargo network, of course these airports are attractive. Why build thousands of new facilities when thousands already exist? From a business standpoint, that makes perfect sense. But using existing infrastructure can change how that infrastructure is used. This is where I start asking questions. Today, pilots adapt to the airport. Tomorrow, will airports begin adapting to autonomous aircraft? Think about the assumptions this research makes. The AI is listening to the Common Traffic Advisory Frequency. But there's something important. There's no general FAA requirement for aircraft operating at non-towered airports to carry or use a radio. Many antique aircraft don't have radios. Ultralights generally don't. Some experimental aircraft don't. Radios fail. Some pilots make imperfect radio calls. Some don't make every recommended position report. Sometimes frequencies get so busy that pilots can't make every recommended position report. That's simply today's reality. So here's a legitimate policy question. If autonomous aircraft begin depending on CTAF to safely operate, will there eventually be pressure to require all aircraft to carry and use radios? I'm not saying that's the plan. I'm saying it's an obvious question worth asking. Human pilots deal with imperfect communication every day. We hear unusual phraseology. We hear weak transmissions. Sometimes we don't hear anything at all. We adjust. Computers can learn to handle variation, but computers also perform best when information is standardized. Could there someday be pressure for standardized radio phraseology, required reporting points, mandatory position reports, electronic identification? Again, I'm not predicting these changes. I'm pointing out that once autonomous systems enter the equation, those conversations naturally follow. Here's another consequence that concerns me. Many small airports already struggle to survive. Neighbors complain about aircraft noise. Communities question the value of keeping airports open. Now imagine adding a large number of autonomous cargo flights. Even if each aircraft is relatively quiet, more operations mean more activity. More activity can mean more complaints. More complaints can mean greater political pressure to close airports. That would be unfortunate because these airports don't just serve recreational pilots. They support medical flights, emergency response, disaster relief, National Guard operations, flight training, diversion airports when larger airports have problems. Once an airport closes, it's extraordinarily difficult to replace. Another question. Saturday morning, busy pattern, training flight, student pilots, recreational pilots now add autonomous aircraft operating on commercial schedules? Who gets priority? How are conflicts resolved? Who decides? Do uncontrolled airports quickly become controlled airports? These are policy questions, not engineering questions. I think the Georgia Tech researchers deserve credit no matter who is funding them. They're solving a difficult engineering problem. In fact, I like the philosophy behind the project. They're teaching autonomous aircraft to adapt to today's pilots. That's exactly how it should be. But history shows us something interesting. Once a technology becomes widespread, the pressure often reverses. Instead of asking, how can autonomous aircraft adapt to human pilots, the question becomes, how should human pilots change so autonomous aircraft can operate more efficiently? That's the part we should be paying attention to. Technology often advances faster than policy. This research may eventually make autonomous operations at non-towered airports technically possible. But making something possible doesn't automatically make it the right policy. Before we transform the airports that generations of pilots have relied on, we need a broader discussion. Not just about technology, but about infrastructure, pilot freedom, airport preservation, community impact, and the future of general aviation itself. Because once those decisions are made, they're very difficult to undo. I'm curious what you think. Would you welcome autonomous aircraft sharing your local non-towered airport? Or do you think we're overlooking some important unintended consequences? Let me know in the comments. I'd really like to hear your perspective. And I suspect that there are a lot of policymakers that look at videos like this and the comments. And if you made it this far, please like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and blue skies.